This video is created by Nihar from YouTube. This video is created by Nihar from YouTube. The top 12 Chevy cars of all time written by Nihar for public domain purpose only. A red 1967 Chevy Camaro convertible is parked in a showroom with a multicolor background. Chevy cars have been around for well over a century now, and in that time, Chevy has offered some of the finest vehicles ever to hit the road. While we love the current lineup of brand new Chevys available, there are definitely some classics out there that have more than stood the test of time. Whether you're a collector, interested in what Chevy has produced, or curious about some of the more sought-after items you might find at your used Chevy dealer in Houston, we thought it would be fun to put together a list of some of our favorites. Let's just say there was a lot of arguing and heated debate about these vehicles and which ones should be included. We could have easily gone for 15, 20, or 50, probably 100 vehicles to talk about, but we did our best to keep the list reasonable. This was supposed to be a top 10 list when we started working on it, but that proved impossible. Here, presented in reverse chronological order, because it was impossible to agree on any other order, are the 12 Chevy models that have really changed the industry. 1911 Series C Classic 6. Where else to finish than where it all began? The 1911 Series C Classic 6 was the first car designed and manufactured by Chevrolet. This is where it all began, and it's certainly a rare collector's vehicle today, but to ignore it would be a shame. It was expensive for its time, and they shifted focus to more affordable models after it, but this is the classic that started it all. 1955 Chevrolet, 55 Chevy. If we had arranged this list by order of importance or our favorites, then this could have very well ended up at the top spot. Without a doubt, the 55 Chevy changed the auto industry and built the foundation of Chevy's reputation for making powerful vehicles. Prior to its introduction, Chevy was typically associated with reliability and affordability, but not necessarily power and style. The 55 Chevy changed all of that. It featured an all-new V8 engine that pulled many drivers away from the popular Ford Mustang, and more than a few of those people never looked back. This is the birth of the Chevy sports car and muscle car all in one. Plus, it's the menacing model driven by Bob Falfa, Harrison Ford's character, in American Graffiti. So if the 58 Impala is the hero of that movie, then the 55 Chevy is certainly the villain. 1955 Cameo Carrier Pickups. The list is about our favorite Chevy cars, and yes, this is a truck, but we don't care. The 1955 Cameo Carrier pickup was something special and really revolutionized what people expected from a truck. With an available V8 engine plus details that included a two-tone interior and chrome bumpers, this was a pickup designed with style. We take that for granted now, but in the 1950s, it was absolutely stunning. 1957 Chevrolet, 57 Chevy. In a lot of ways, the 57 Chevy was a car that changed everything by delivering incredible performance at a very reasonable price. That's the core idea of what makes this model truly memorable. It featured a 283 horsepower 283 engine. While it wasn't the first car to offer 1 horsepower per cubic inch, it had a price tag that made that far more accessible than any other vehicle out there. 1958 Impala. Another Impala so soon? Oh yes, and for two good reasons. First, this is the original, the first year for the Chevy Impala, and it was a gorgeous car that was incredibly popular. And second, this is Ron Howard's character car from American Graffiti, and talking about classic Chevys without mentioning that movie would be like looking at classic Mustangs and not mentioning Bullitt. It's simply not done. 1961 Impala. This is the original Super Sport, hence the SS, and remains one of the sleekest and best-looking vehicles of its kind. It featured a 360 horsepower 409 engine that made it one of the best options at the time if you wanted a car that was fast, powerful, and great for just cruising. It's simply a beautiful piece of machinery that dominates the road. 1963 Corvette Coupe. What's to be said about the 63 Corvette? It introduced the world to the Stingray. It was Stingray at that time, and created one of the boldest, most iconic car designs ever. The swooped front and tapered roof with a rear split window are just as beautiful today as it was almost 60 years ago, making this a dream machine for many collectors. 8 1965 Chevelle SS Z16 1966 Chevelle SS 396 1970 Chevelle SS 454. So this one is a little bit of a rule breaker on this list, but it's our list, so we get to make and break the rules. Basically, we really couldn't reach a consensus on which model year to go with here, so we're covering the three that we like the most. Any Chevelle from this period is going to be amazing, and you're just looking at different degrees of awesome. The 65 Chevelle was the first with a big block engine, but for raw power, the 70 with a 450 horsepower 454 engine is truly something to behold. 9 1967 Camaro. Speaking of 1960s classics, it doesn't get much better than the 1967 Camaro. Perhaps best of all, the different versions of the Camaro in 67 featured several different amazing engines. The SS had a 295 horsepower 350 engine, while the Z28 featured a 290 horsepower 302 engine. This is particularly important when considering a used car, since it means you're going to find an amazing engine in any model you find at a used Chevy dealer or from a private seller. 10 A gray 2009 Chevrolet Corvette Zr1 is driving on a highway leaving a used Chevy dealer in Houston. 10 1968 Nova L78. Now let's kick off our classics, starting with the 1968 Chevy Nova 78 Lira, also known as the Nova SS. This thing was an absolute monster and featured a 375 horsepower 396 engine that let it tear up the road straight from the factory. With a little extra effort and a few modifications, it could become even more impressive and beat just about anything else it went up against from the same time period. If you want stunning performance in a 1960s classic, this is hard to beat. 11 2009 Corvette Zr1. We picked 2009 to keep things simple, but all of the Corvette Zr1 models from the past decade have been amazing. These are incredibly powerful with supercharged 6.2L engines that deliver on speeds most people can't even imagine. It's the most powerful car ever produced and sold to consumers by GM, which makes it a niche model, but it's definitely our kind of niche. 12 2020 Corvette. One of only two models on our list since the late 1960s. To be fair, there were some more recent models, but we had to make some cuts. The 2020 Chevy Corvette has earned this place of honor thanks to one particular feature: the mid-engine design. By pushing the engine back to behind the cockpit, the 2020 Corvette has revolutionized what we expect from this sports car and really deserves to be on this list. Are you going to find one at a used Chevy dealer anytime soon? Perhaps not, but when you do, you know you found something special.